favorite couple every day with H and K. Hope and Kadero here.
Yes.
Great to have you watching us again.
It's great.
Again? If you're watching again, we appreciate you watching us
We do
again.
appreciate you watching us again.
So, we are going to do, not episode, I guess it's not an episode.
That's
but
what Instagram
part
calls it.
2. Yeah, our Instagram does. Or if you're not following us on Instagram,
head on over
please
there.
Follow us.
We started a series.
Yes, it's our What's the Hardest Thing About Marriage?
Or Biggest Obstacle.
Or Biggest Obstacle.
And this is part 2.
Part 2. We're
Yes.
just answering questions. You gave us responses on what the hardest thing or the biggest obstacle.
Yeah.
And we're just answering and giving our thoughts
Yep.
on those deals. So
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
So today, someone wrote in the biggest obstacle. The hardest thing is being one, yet being individuals, which can be very, very tough.
Yes.
I see where they're coming from. So we're gonna dive right into what we think about that. Silly. So yes, the word talks about when we come together as one flesh. And that's huge. That is an undeniable unity that has to be present.
Yes.
And when you're in a marriage, being one.
Yes.
But
There is a but.
there is a but.
It's round.
We are
Go ahead.
we are still individuals.
Yes.
We still came into this relationship as
different
people. Like you talked
That's
about.
what we fell in love with.
Yeah.
I fell in love with his personality, and hopefully he fell in love with mine.
Absolutely.
Thank you, darling.
But yes, so that individuality and that personality that each person has is gonna stick with them no matter what, and no matter if we've come together and now we're one as a marriage. We had different upbringings.
Yep.
We have different dreams. We have different goals. We have different ways of doing things, and that's not going to change. The key to that is, even though we are still individuals, we have to embrace that.
Yeah.
Embrace that individuality and learn that those things are just our makeup, and we can't allow those differences to tear us apart.
No, we're not saying like if something's off, you can't work on yourself. Like, this is just who I am. Just accept it. All right, let's calm down with that one. Like, if it's some things that you can work on, by all means, work on it. But what we're saying is, everybody is themselves, and that's what you fell in love with, and allow that partner or that spouse to be themselves in your relationship.
And when you do that, that makes me think of a word. When you say that, what word do you think I'm thinking about?
Does it start with a C?
It starts with a C.
I think it's compromise.
Yeah, we're silly. Yes, compromise.
Compromise.
And that a lot
So
of
big.
marriages, especially when it's talking about being one and still keeping that individuality, it's about compromising because we are so different. We do have to, come together and be unified, but yet have different ways of thinking, and our thought process can be totally different. So we're gonna give an example for us.
Yes.
I'm a extrovert.
And believe it or not, guys, I at heart am an introvert.
He's very much.
I don't like, it sounds crazy, but I don't like talking to people. Well, that sounds bad, but like I'm not
don't
the
like
first
talking to people.
to initiate something. Like, I'm pretty shy, reserved. Kadero, on the other hand, he can go into a room, he can talk to people, he can just have a great time. Total opposite. But another, I guess, an example would be when he comes home sometimes, like, my candles are lit. I have like a playlist with cello players or violinist or classical music. Like, this is no joke. Like, that's honestly some stuff that I enjoy. Now, when I get into his car, I mean, the volume can't go up any higher. The songs, I don't understand what's happening. But that's his world. And it's like, he'll come home, he'll be like, ooh, it's somber in here. Or then I go in his car, I'm like, whoa, like, what just happened? But it's compromise. I'll turn his radio down a little bit, and I'll cut off my classical when he comes home, because I want, the place ain't but so big. I want to occupy all this space with all of that stuff.
But within that, and how we compromise is that, at the end of the day, each person has to kind of look at themselves and be willing to live in your spouse's world.
In their space.
And live in their space, because when I come home and somber, I'm able to, for those moments, because she's in that space, be able to just sit and relax and listen to the classical music and be with her. And on the flip side, sometimes when I'm in the car and I'm bumping the music,
a little twerk happened, you know what I mean?
She got out twerking.
A little twerk happens,
dropping it. So, but and the reason for that, and the reason why that's so important, is because that really shows how much you love that person, and it reminds them that's the person
that I fell in love with. Yeah.
So, and it's key as we continue to grow and the years go by and those personalities start to change and your individuality starts to change and mature, asking each other, what do you need from me right now?
Yeah.
How can I just be a better spouse to you,
better partner,
and compromise for the need. So it's really, I think the oneness and unity is talking about dying to yourself, but at the same time embracing each other's differences so that we can still love the things we love, because we are different. Because if, like you talk about being the same would be
boring. Being the same would be boring. And I could go a lot deeper, but I don't think we have time for that. But I just want to give a shout out to, because I do see this happen a lot of times in marriages where like women more so will kind of lose themselves, and it's just all about the husband or the kids or whatever. And it's kind of like, try to keep yourself in the forefront, as selfish as that may seem, but they need you and not just whoever you're becoming in that moment. Never lose yourself. Continue
and
to
for
keep
men,
yourself.
understanding who that woman was and that personality you fell with, and if you see there's a change, being very mindful of that and be able to see that and be willing to say something and notice those little things, because it will mean a lot to her. And then when things mean a lot to her, you always are winning.
Everybody wins.
Everybody wins.
Everybody wins.
Boom, chicka, wow, wow.
Oh.
Anyway, so that's all we got today. Guys, it may be hard because you are one. You are unified, and we want you to be a unit, because when you come together, bigger things happen, better things happen. However, in that unification, make sure you keep to being your individual, true self.
Yes.
And learn to compromise, live in each other's world, show that you love each other, share that space with one another, and
allow them to be them.
Allow them to be them.
I love your goofy self.
Love is in the air.
Oh.
Love
Where is
is
it?
in your face.
Oh.
Love is in
We're done.
We're done.
Goodbye. Love you guys. Bye.
Like, comment. We want to hear from you.
Yes.
Peace.
Bye.